What do Howard University students who haven't taken Dr. Patton's class know about photography terms? Some don't know much, and some know more than you think. Thankfully, Yassine and I are taking the class, which means we're studying the terms and we're going to share them with you. But in the meantime, as journalism students we went out into the field and got the answers from the Howard University community. This is what we found.
I think aperture is like kind of like a pupil, like compared to our eye, like it kind of determines how much light comes into the camera or not.
Aperture is like the pupil of your eye. It controls how much light enters the camera.
I think that shutter speed is like the length of time it takes for the camera shutter to open and close.
Shutter speed is actually how fast your camera eye blinks to take a picture. A faster shutter speed is like blinking quickly. It freezes motion and it's great for action shots. A faster shutter speed is like keeping your eyes open for a long time and it captures motion blur.
The ISO of a camera is the exposure.
ISO is a number that represents how sensitive your camera sensor is to light. The higher the ISO number, the higher your camera's sensitivity, and the less light you need to take a picture. But higher ISOs can lead to degraded image quality.
I think depth of field is the amount, how far or close the camera is away and how it perceives the way it's angled.
So depth of field is how much the image is in focus from front to back. For a shallow depth of field, only part of the image is sharp. For a deeper depth of field, everything in the image is sharp. For example, landscapes.
And I think exposure has to do with lighting, like a camera's exposure to lighting.
Exposure. Exposure is the amount of light that reaches your camera sensor or film. Too much or too little can ruin it. A properly exposed photo has a balanced mix of light and dark.
For me, what I know about white balance is it's like the amount of white light you might have in a shot, or like the amount of white colors you might have in a shot, and how like it balances out during the shot.
So white balance adjusts the color temperature of your photo so your whites actually look white. Sometimes they can look yellow or blue, which is what we don't want. Sunlight might make something look too orange, or fluorescent lighting might make something look too blue. It's basically a corrector for all the whites in your image.
Thinking about when we're drawing in a scene, and I specifically think architecture, but like that's where your reference line is going to be for pretty much like all your angles.
Focal length determines how much of a scene your camera captures and how close things appear.
Basically, when you're using like a grid and like a camera and you're trying to...
Let's talk about the famous rule of thirds, the secret to good framing. It's like a 3x3 grid where the most interesting parts of your photo are placed along the lines or at the intersections.
I would say that is maybe the position of the camera when you're taking a photo. I don't really know that much about it.
Composition is how you arrange elements in your frame to create a visually appealing shot. For instance, leading lines guide the viewer's eye, symmetry creates the balance, while contrast makes things stand out.
Bokeh is the blurry background on the back of a photo depending on your aperture.
Bokeh is actually like a soft background that makes your photos feel cinematic. It's often seen in portraits or photography with lights, and it makes your subject stand out. It's often used in night photography.